With the Spurs playing the Suns tonight, let's revisit that rumor that's been popping up. Kevin Durant to the Spurs?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for KENS 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back, and happy Friday, everybody. And as always, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. You know where to go: iTunes, Spotify, KENS 5 Plus app, YouTube. Locked On Spurs newsletter in the description below. If you're watching on YouTube, just click that link in the description. I put it there, bold letters, says LO Spurs newsletter. Click on that, you're good to go. Or just go to lockedondaily.com. What are we talking about tonight? Well, the Spurs are in Phoenix, right? There's a guy on the other side of the team. The other side of the court, I should say. Kevin Durant. There's some rumblings, some rumors that the Spurs could target him heading into the offseason, do a trade with Phoenix, bring him on board to the Spurs next season. But should they? Should they? What are the pros and cons? Let's go and revisit that topic and preview tonight's game. I guess there's really nothing much to preview. These two teams are done for the season for all intents and purposes, but we'll see what we can figure out what's going to happen tonight out in Phoenix. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You want to go to Game Time right now? Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Let's go to bring in our guest friend of the show and my good friend, known him for years now. Casey Vieira is back. Welcome back, Casey.
You know, it's funny you say known for years, because I was actually having a conversation with someone about the other day about that. And it was a conversation was with my wife, because it was after we did the last lockdown.
Yeah.
And you said, and she said, how long have you and Jeff known each other right now? And believe it or not, we met in the summer of 2019 at this draft.
Lord.
In Brooklyn.
Wow.
That was the dominant Keldon Johnson, Quindary Weatherspoon draft. So we're coming up on 6 years knowing each other. It's crazy, right?
Dude, I remember it goes yesterday.
Yeah.
You're doing the where you had the MMA gear on. I mean MMJ gear on. Yeah. I remember you asked Luca about the breakfast tacos.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Breakfast tacos and humidity. I forgot all about that.
Yes, you did. Yeah. Wow. Time flies.
He wasn't a very big very big fan of Mather, because he didn't last very long.
No, he didn't. But wow, time. By the way, I haven't heard Quindary Weatherspoon in a long time.
Oh, no, that's the name. I liked him. He was a super nice guy.
Yeah, was he still? He's not still playing, is he? Probably overseas or something.
No, Europe.
Yeah, I don't know.
I liked him. I was hoping he would stay a little while, but you know how that goes.
Well, time definitely flies, and well, I'm glad to have known you for all these years, man. You blink and holy smokes, it's
a lot of life changes by that, right?
You were still dating your wife, I think, and no kids, and not marriage plans.
Pandemic sandwiched in the middle there.
I was living in the heart of it, in New York City, the epicenter of it. Wow. All right, everybody. Enough of the walk down memory lane. Make sure to follow Casey on X at Casey_Vieira. You want to do that right now. But so why is Casey here today? We heard the intro. Kevin Durant. Yeah. Well, the Spurs played the Suns tonight, so it kind of makes sense to discuss kind of a big rumor topic that's been popping up, percolating, at least in the second half of the season. Durant to San Antonio next season. Even ESPN Sharania reported on ESPN that Kevin Durant and Spurs, there was some interest among other teams, recently. So you take that for what it's worth. And by the way, Keith, let's not forget, this is not the first time. It's been a long time ago. The Spurs and Durant have been linked years and years ago. They tried to chase them, didn't work out. Nevertheless, here we are. So a lot of Spurs fans are kind of split on this. Some are, yes, bring him in. What are you, crazy? Look what he's still doing at his age, 20-something points per game. Then you get the other side of the coin saying, no, y'all are crazy because look how old he is. And what are we going to do? He's a team killer. Let's go to weigh both options here. I think if you're going to go short term, Casey, it makes sense. Short term being the key phrase. If Wemby shows up in the offseason and says, you know what, We had just wrapped up another down season, no playing, no postseason, nothing. I want to win ASAP. You bring him in, right?
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, that's going to be a large, if not the ultimate. Not I don't know. I don't want to say the ultimate decision maker, but I think Wemby's heavy influence is going to determine what this Kevin Durant thinks, because it is going to be short term. It is going to be short term from a contractual standpoint. Only has a year left. And from an age standpoint, going into what is age 37 season. So it is going to be a short 3-year top. Contractually, only 1 year. And for me, if you're looking at it from the X's and O's standpoint, it's a no-brainer.
Oh my God.
It's a no-brainer. Because if he comes to San Antonio, I don't see, with the exception of maybe Oklahoma City, and I'm high on the Lakers going forward. So I think with the exception of those two teams, I think you could put them. I mean, it's a myriad of teams in the Western Conference right now. After those teams, in my mind, can finish, I guess that would be 30 through 8.
Yeah.
I think they would be on the top half towards that. I feel like they'd be closer to a top 4 team in the conference as 5 through 6,
Right.
just from a talent standpoint alone. So from the positive lens, I think that's absolutely what you're looking for and what you would end up with, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the upside is very, very clear. This is what he's doing at 36. 26.6 points per game, about 53% shooting, and 43% from the 3 line. That's great. That's a lot more than you're getting from a guy like Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan. And that's instant offense. That's instant all-star. That's instant veteran. That's instant pushing the Spurs up in the top 6 spots, as you mentioned, Casey. Not to mention, Victor is a big fan of Kevin Durant, pattern his game off of KD. So it definitely make Victor very, very happy, and good on GM Brian Wright to keep the star player happy. And then you think about this too, the roster construction. Castle, Fox, Wemby, Durant. I mean, that's a nightmare for opposing teams, isn't it, Casey?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
I mean, you got length, you got added shooting, you got versatility, you got somebody who could complement Wemby beyond what De'Aaron Fox can do. I think the defenses would just be overwhelmed, and I think the Spurs vault instant. Are they deep playoff run contention, or are they Western Finals contention? Where would they land in that spectrum?
I think that puts you, I mean, considering it would be year 1.
Yeah.
I think in the immediacy, say it'd be a 3-year venture.
Okay.
If we look on the broader picture, call it a 3-year venture. I think year 1, probably your ceiling is the second round. Which is not a bad thing. Given that the team is going to win 30+ games this year.
Yeah.
And I mean, if next year, if that was the case, they won over 50 games, they finished in the second round, and Wemby's first playoff appearance, I would classify that as a successful year.
Oh, absolutely.
If you ask me, I think that would probably be their ceiling.
For sure. And you would almost look at Kevin Durant's impact or just his presence and what he can do, pushing this rebuild. Oh, man. Are we safe to say pushing it out of the rebuild, or maybe still in it, but, we're arm lengths away out of getting out of the tunnel, or completely out of the rebuild?
Right. Well, I think it's kind of like what you see Oklahoma City. Right now, they're contending, but are we entirely sure they're out of a rebuild yet?
Ooh, that's scary to know. That's scary to think.
They're kind of doing doing both.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I mean, what do you think the average age of that team is? Like 25?
Yeah, probably younger. Wouldn't be surprised.
Probably younger, right?
Yeah.
So in many respects, they're still kind of doing both.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably looking at a very similar conversation. the age standpoint, of course, be skewed. Given that Durant's going to be 36, 37, that part of it's skewed. But I think that kind of puts you not as far ahead as Oklahoma City is right now, but I think that certainly expedites the process that you're pretty much doing both at the same time for sure.
Yeah, and also if you bring him in, this team could attract other, quality free agents, that would bolster the roster. Not going to want to play with Wemby, Fox, and Castle and KD.
Right.
So these I think at that point, if the Spurs would have pulled the trigger and make a deal with Phoenix, then San Antonio is like a destination city for really good free agents to fill out the roster. Because at that point, you just need role players. You just need guys who know their role. Okay, player X, you're a menace on defense. You're going to help Castle on that perimeter and what have you. So-and-so, you're going to be the 3-point threat. You're just going to be the big man that's going to back up Wemby and do a quality job of that. You don't have to go swing for the fences anymore. Then at that point, I think it's just too many cooks in the kitchen. I think you at this point in this scenario, it's pushing that envelope a little bit too much. But I can definitely see Wemby the type to defer because he's shown that he's willing to defer to his teammates. So I don't think Wemby would have an issue mixing with KD. Where the only issue I could think of is the Fox and KD point because they both need their touches, Casey.
Yeah, and I think I'll expand on a little bit more on the negative side of things.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that soon. Yeah, we'll get that in the next set.
I don't want to burn through all my talking points on that because all those things you said I think are valid, and I guess we'll expand on that in a minute. But I am of the belief that there is, at this point in Kevin Durant's career, he is versatile enough to do any of those things, except that, or with the, he can acknowledge that there are other ways to maximize his value on the offensive side of the basketball. So I'm not super concerned about the amount of touches. I guess to a certain degree, it is a conversation, but to the point that it's overly detrimental and will be a determining factor, I don't think that would be the determining factor in this trade. No, I do not. I think you have your facilitator at point guard. You have Victor and what he is. You have Durant and what he is. You probably have Castle in a spot where you're not putting much a stock and accountability to be a consistent offensive source, which in all actuality is really what he needs. While he has shined, he has played very well. I don't think in year two you want to view him as a number 3 option on a title contending team. I don't think reasonably, and that's a reasonable expectation for him in year number 2. But putting him in a spot where you're not asking a ton out of him, and then mixing and matching the pieces after that, you have a solid 4 for a 3-year window theoretically, and working efficiently to put, because things would of course change significantly regarding who would come back or who would go out in exchange. So you could have it could be anyone that's still on the team. But if you have that 4, like you just said, you're off to a very good start.
Absolutely.
You're off to a very good start.
Absolutely. And one other pro, I guess, of really weighing the pros and cons is the Spurs can afford any sticker price that the Suns have. They have an abundance of picks, players, whatnot. Right. It'll probably, Phoenix will probably going to want a lot. And considering Phoenix's situation right now, because I don't think they have a draft pick till 2032, something like that.
They don't.
Yeah.
They do.
So if they're going to start their rebuild, what better team to go to the Spurs, who have just a war chest of draft picks, that they can send off to Phoenix. But sounds good, right, on paper, right? Well, there are some risks. We're going to talk about that when we get back right here on Locked On Spurs, spotlighting the Kevin Durant rumor. It just made sense, everybody. Spurs Suns tonight. So let's bring it up with my good friend, Casey Vieira. You'll want to follow him on X at Casey Vieira or Casey_Vieira. Do that right now. But first, I want to talk to you about DoorDash.
NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When a player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Here's why you should take advantage of this deal. Game day feast. After an epic 50-point performance, celebrate your ordering wings, pizza, burgers from your favorite spot delivered straight to your door. Late night cravings, whether you're staying up late watching highlights or just need a midnight snack, use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. Hey, what about fueling your own watch party? Planning to catch the next game? Order your go-to snacks and meals at a discount and get ready for more high-scoring action. Lunch on the go? Need a quick and easy lunch the next day? Dash Pass gets your favorite meals with $0 delivery fee, reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off the order the next day. That's $10 off. Use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more.
This is Homer Simpson, and you are listening to my favorite Spurs podcast, Locked on Spurs. Donuts.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Casey Vieira. Follow him on X at Casey_Vieira. You want to do that right now. We're talking about Kevin Durant. Again, it just made sense. Spurs, Suns tonight. A rumor, Spurs, Durant pairing possibly this upcoming the new season ahead. We're discussing that right now. So we kind of really highlighted a lot of the pros. But there are risks. And the obvious risk, Casey, is his age. He'll be 37. Not likely, how the kids say, these young Spurs fans say, Casey, doesn't fit the timeline. He definitely doesn't fit the timeline. He will not be here for the long haul of Victor's career. And frankly, if you do the move, we kind of highlighted in the first half, Phoenix is going to want to haul. The downside is Spurs are willing to give up some young, good talent, quality talent, for a guy who's just going to be here pretty much as a rental for a couple years. Your thoughts?
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
It is capital for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's not as much about giving up for him, but as much for what you have for the next future move to make. And the reason I say that is it is stars on the move. We know how fluid it can be. And if that's not readily available for you, if you're fully in on accepting that you're using your ammo on Kevin Durant and you're fine with that going forward, that this is what you make the move on, and you're not particularly enthused about what might be available down the road, then you do it. And to be fair, even in his late 30s, there's not much readily available that'll put you into deep playoff contention than Kevin Durant, right? Even at that age. But at the same time, for me, my big concern with it, and this kind of went back to Wemby's rookie year. And since that time, 2 years is a big difference to at least establish this ahead of time, is the idea of identity. Whose team is it? Is it Victor's team? Is it Durant's team? Because Durant is about as polarizing of a figure as you can get. Is that going to be problematic? There was a lot of that conversation a couple summers ago when James Harden's name was very much on the market, and Spurs fans like, yeah, let's give up what we got for Harden. That's a lot. That's a lot to let marinate for a guy of Victor's stature who's just for all he's become now, what he was 2 years ago, a prized rookie coming into the league. And from the Spurs lens, you don't want to mess up the identity of the fact that this is Victor's team, and there's no question about it. Yeah, there's no one else that's going to come in and establish that. 2 years ago as a rookie, I think that's a bigger concern than what it is now. But at the same time, though, Kevin Durant is a much bigger name than James Harden.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's a much bigger name than James Harden. And that conversation is a little bit harder to avoid, especially when the accountability comes into play and the games start really mattering. And then and then when they go on an inevitable losing stretch, like, oh, is there an identity crisis with the Spurs? Something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they're ready, if they're ready to accept those conversations, that'll for whether there's any validity or not. If they're ready to accept that those conversations will come about in some capacity, then I think you make the move. If you think these guys can handle it enough as professionals to recognize the chain of command, the pecking order, because it's still going to need to be Victor's team, because Victor is going to be here after that 3-year window.
Yep.
Then I think that should not be a concern.
Right.
But at the same time, it will be a conversation. There's a difference between a concern and a conversation, because conversation that comes about is not necessarily what's happening behind doors. But I do think that would be a topic that would need to be addressed ahead of time to establish that identity of what it is that this will still, in fact, be Victor's team.
But don't you think he's kind of doing that right now? When Phoenix is, to a degree, it's Booker's team, basically.
But is it, though?
That's what I'm saying, to a degree. And maybe that's where the rub is in Phoenix. There's just too many there, I don't know.
I don't. The thing is, I don't think. Here's the difference here. I think it feels like a little bit more of an identity crisis over there. At the end of the day, if you ask me about the Suns, whose team is it? Yeah, I would say Book. I do, but I think that the big difference with the two, in terms of establishing that pecking order, is that there is a better player than Devin Booker. Now, he's going to be a better player than Devin Booker, assuming health next year. He's going to be the conversation for a top 3 player, top 3 to 5 player in the league the year after that, if all goes according to plan and health assumed. And at no point will Devin Booker be in that conversation, nor has I like Book, but that's the truth.
Yeah,
and he's never been in that conversation, nor will he continue. Will he be in a top 5 player conversation? Victor will be years to come. Yeah. And I think that does a better job of establishing that identity, at least solidifying it when you know that. But back to your original point, I think there is that identity crisis to a certain extent, that conversation in Phoenix. But I think at the end of the day, you ask most people about that Suns team, and what the Suns are saying as well is that they're not moving Booker at all.
No, they're not.
That you ask for the face of the Phoenix Suns, and Book is the guy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. And I get Durant, you mentioned Durant, we'll have to understand that if the Spurs were to make a deal for him coming to San Antonio, durability, he has, Durant, that is, a little bit of a history of injuries, ankle sprains. I think, the infamous calf that exploded during the playoffs versus when it was the Warriors. So there's durability, but so far so good. This season, really not many, IRs, sitting out because of injury. So, but it's still, you keep that in the back of your head. I think the biggest thing here is, are the Spurs willing to mortgage their future for a win now mentality? And I don't think that's been the Spurs' MO. We even hear it to the bitter end of this season. We're going to not skip steps. This would be a huge step skipped, wouldn't it, Casey?
Yeah, but here's my thing with the rebuild. Say the deal, the foundation, because I'm sure other names will need to get dragged into it to make the money work.
Yeah.
But say the foundation of the deal is Devin Vassell and their 2 draft picks for this year, assuming that neither of them turn into Cooper Flag. Yeah. Because if it's the number one, if they lock into the number 1 pick, of course, this conversation.
Yeah, we're done. Yeah.
Say you're looking at Devin Vassell, pick 7, and the Hawks pick of 15. I know that you do that. Because I don't think at the next point in any 3 years down the road will you be better with that team as your baseline. I don't. And the good thing, if the Spurs decide, and here's the difference between them and the Suns, is that if they make the Durant deal and they max out as their ceiling in that 3-year window, they don't get beyond the second round of the playoffs. That's their peak. Durant retires, Durant relieves. What are you left with? You're left with a top 3 player in the league. You're left with an all-star caliber point guard. You're left with a guy, the rookie of the year this year, and someone who is on the ascension to be an all-star caliber player, if not a regular, everyday, young starter in this league. That is a whole lot more than what the Phoenix Suns were left with. Even if this doesn't work and you have to restart a timeline a little bit, you are in a completely different situation that Phoenix is in, because you already have a whole lot more. They have Book. The Durant trade isn't what handcuffed Phoenix. It was the Beal trade. The Beal trade is what truly handcuffed the Suns here. If they don't make the Bradley Beal trade, they're still very much in the conversation to do other things, even if it's not getting the start, just getting other ancillary moves to make this thing work.
I think they needed that to work.
One more time, sorry.
I think they needed that. They needed ancillary players. They didn't need star power. They already had star power.
And in my opinion, the Kevin Durant trade didn't hamstring them and ruin this process. The Bradley Beal trade ruined this process, because once that was done, it was that core, and they put all their eggs into that core, and it did not work. It failed miserably. But and it ruined any chance of there being any flexibility to fix it. Right now, I think if the Spurs, assuming they don't trade Castle in the deal, which I don't think they will.
No, they will.
And we're trading Fox. Yeah. I would be stunned. And assuming they don't trade Fox in the deal, you are still left with a very good 3-player core going forward. That was the difference for me. And that's why I would do the deal. That's why I would do the deal, because if it fails, and it very well could. If we're being completely honest, Kevin Durant's recent postseason success has not been good. It has not. But if it fails, I feel like you're still left with a very, very established bunch at that point, and a very, very solid foundation going forward. Barring the unforeseen, of course. Sure. But you're left with a whole lot to work with, and in my opinion, that's the difference between that and Phoenix. It's the same reason I feel like that. Like I feel that it's a no-brainer for the Spurs to do it. Of course, there are hesitancies, maybe not no-brainer, but it's the same reason I think the Rockets need to make that move too. And where the Rockets have an advantage of the Spurs here is that I think they're 2 advantages. I think they're packaged to give back in terms of readily available players now, which seems to be what Phoenix wants. I think it's better. I do. And if I'm not mistaken, they also own the Suns' draft, part of the draft, a majority of their draft capital.
Give it back,
correct?
Yep. So
the Suns can go back to dictating their own future if they get that back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know what? Let's continue this after the break. Let's wrap this up and continue this discussion. I like where this is going. It's a good chat right now. Again, everybody, we are with Casey Vieira. He is my good friend. You want to follow him on X at Casey_Vieira. Again, we're talking about the Kevin Durant Spurs rumors. Made sense with the Spurs facing the Suns tonight. But first, we want to talk about Game Time.
There's nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last-minute MLB showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA matchup. But finding great seats at a great price, that used to be a challenge until I found Game Time. Game Time makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the event gets closer. And with their all-in pricing, you see that total cost up front, no surprises at checkout. This is why I love Game Time. They have last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater, whatever you can find. You can grab last minute seats for, say, a Spurs game and save big on their zone deals. Peace of mind with the seats views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a low cost price guarantee. You can book with total confidence. The lowest price guarantee means you'll never have to worry about overpaying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
As the new leader of the Decepticons, I command you to subscribe to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Casey Vieira. Follow him on X at Casey_Vieira, and he is animated. He sounds like if he's Brian Wright's skit right now, he's pulling that trigger to bring KD to San Antonio this offseason. Rebuild, timeline, skipping steps, be damned. It's KD in San Antonio. You're bringing up a good point right now before the break here. You're saying that the Spurs pieces would be left over if it didn't work out. Will still be strong, leaving them in a good spot. I just wanted to highlight this before I let you continue here. It would even be better because let's just say it doesn't work out in San Antonio. Then, oh my God, it's open season. All NBA teams wants to make a deal with San Antonio for Kevin Durant, Team X that is in the postseason and needs a little bit of a push to get over the hump. I think the Spurs are in a good position like that to make a good deal and get a good return on their investment / trade.
That's also valid.
Yeah.
That's also valid. Will his stock at 40 be what it is now? Probably not. But
Probably not. Nope.
But assuming he is still playing and the trajectory is that Kevin Durant until the end of his days in this league will add more to your team than less. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think it just comes down to, do they want to win now or do they want to continue the rebuild? I think it just really comes down to that. They're going to have to bite the bullet. They're going to have to, give up some significant pieces, players, draft picks, but they can do it. They can do it. It's, you put on, again, we didn't even touch on how recently, however he's gone, it seems to be disaster. Brooklyn, that didn't work out. Phoenix, obviously not working out right now. Things fell apart in Golden State. What about the whole idea of the culture fit? We don't know what Pop's going to do. If he comes back, great. I think Pop can, will command his respect to Durant's. But if it's somebody else, I don't know, Casey. What do you think about that cultural aspect of it?
See, I don't agree with the Brooklyn part. Because I don't think the Brooklyn part was on him. I think the Brooklyn part was Kyrie Irving going completely off the rails.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about it.
Yes, right. For that moment in time, becoming an anti-Semite. I don't think. I mean, it's true though. Let's be honest. It's what it was. I don't think that part was Kevin Durant's deal. I don't think Kevin, while it's not, listen, there is a level of blame that does go on him, and it comes with the territory. But I don't think it's exclusive. All those aspects in Brooklyn are exclusive to him. I don't. I think there's bigger circumstances. There was Kyrie going off the rails. There was Harden's health. And when we did see them be healthy, I mean, they looked pretty spectacular. The only issue is they were never healthy. Durant as well. The Phoenix thing, had it not been for the Beal deal, I think this team would still be in a spot. Again, I don't think the Beal deal is, I don't think the Bradley Beal aspect, or should I say, the Bradley Beal aspect, I do think is what tore this team apart as opposed to him. Yeah. Durant's health, to a certain extent, a factor. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But absolutely. In terms of the culture standpoint, I'm fine with taking my chances bringing him.
Yeah. If it's deep postseason run, championship dreams, you do it. And it's all about in the immediacy. You do it next couple year, 2-3 years, you do it. You may have to gut the roster. Phoenix is not going to back down of that, but as long as Fox and Castle are protected, because obviously not going to give a Wemby. You go for it. I think the deal killer would be if Suns were to say, "All right, Dylan Castle," and then we got a problem.
I agree.
Yeah,
I hit pause, man.
yeah. You pause. You're like, "All right, hang on here. Let's discuss this out. One more first rounders, we got them. We can go that route."
Right.
But outside of that, yeah. If again it goes back to what we said at the beginning of the show, if Wemby comes in and says, "I'm sick and tired of this," another losing season. I'm coming back from my surgery, allegedly, reportedly. Spurs did not confirm it, but my blood clots are clear. I'm good to go. Year 3 for me. Let's rock and roll this year. Then you Spurs, you got to what you got to do. So it's basically just it's a classic. An hour later, pretty much in an hour later talk. We can do it now. We can do it later, but. It sounds like Casey is telling Devin Vassell and Keldon and Sohan, "Hey, get your bags ready." Sounds like it. Hey,
I think so.
yeah, it sounds like it.
Short term. Another thing here too. Another thing here too. Where 2 years from now, we won't go 3. We'll say 2, a little bit less. Do you feel better about your chances to win a championship with this current team? With the hopes that the guys that you do have turn into something truly as true difference makers? Is that your best route to win a championship? Mm-hmm. Or is it bringing in Kevin Durant at the back end of his career, currently still better than a lot of those guys that they've given us?
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. I'm of the belief that getting Durant puts you in a better process to win the title.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I do.
Yeah. And I think you're not almost, you are getting kind of a long-term veteran influence that can help with Durant. Well, I use long-term loosely versus like a Chris Paul, who's likely is just going to be a 1-year rental unless he's okay coming off the bench next year. But you get to prolong that presence in the locker room on the court with some of the guys that are here, because once they let go of, let's just say it's Vassell and Keldon or Sohan, some sort of combination of that. If Suns want any of those players, then your draft picks become more valuable. They're going to want to get some run. Maybe that we said earlier, some free agents will come to San Antonio to fill up those missing roster spots. And but moving forward, I just think it'd be good for Wemby to have Durant around, Castle to have Durant around, and whoever young players still around after a deal will go down like that. But yeah, this is a great topic. I know it's probably going to be dancing in Spurs fans' minds throughout the offseason. But we love to hear from you. You can let Casey know your thoughts on this topic. KD to San Antonio, make a deal with Phoenix. Let them know at Casey_Vieira on X. You'll let me know by leaving a comment over to the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. We're running out of time here, Casey, but we got Spurs Suns tonight. Let's go ahead and preview it quickly. These two teams, they're not going to have something to play for anymore. I think Suns were officially eliminated from playoff contention a couple of days ago. They're done. Man, just what a disaster in Phoenix, huh, Casey? Just a disaster.
Unreal.
All that time, they couldn't even sniff the play-in.
Yep. I have nothing more to add that. Yeah.
Yeah. Spurs have played Suns pretty tough this year. Well, they should take that back. No, they got smoked in Austin, but midday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They beat them pretty.
They beat them pretty bad. Yeah. But hopefully the Spurs just get a W. At this point, I love to see, the team, the way they were celebrating Harrison Barnes' game winner versus Golden State. I think that's just good. Spurs playing spoilers right now. Really, it's nothing to spoil tonight in Phoenix. But look, if the Spurs can get a quality win over a team that, at least on paper, has more talent than them, then I'm all for it. Let the young guys feel that win, because wins have been
thoughts about
the season.
Real quick before we hit the poster, can we just talk about 2 years in a row that the Spurs have thrown a real wrench in the Western Conference seeding?
Yeah, it's unstoppable.
Barnes the other day,
Yeah.
between Barnes the other day and Devontae Graham, whose Spurs run will always be remembered for knocking the Nuggets out of home court advantage in the second round, which proved to be costly.
Good Lord.
Can we discuss that?
I remember.
I mean, it only really needs about 15 seconds of discussing, but
All right, go ahead. Take it away, Casey.
oh no, that's all I got. Yeah.
Oh, that's all you got. Oh, you want to like add more to it? No, you're right. Yeah, they the Spurs just played spoilers again. I think with that loss, the Golden State fell to the play-in, right? As of this recording.
Honestly, I mean, it could mean that Golden State has to, if they take care of business in the play-in, they have to go out to Houston, a place where Amen Thompson just incarcerated Stephen Curry just a week ago. Who knows?
Yeah. For the Spurs, you just again, just Castle stay healthy. Everybody else, stay just focused on getting a W. Champagne, he said, he wants to continue here. Well, show out. So that's all the Spurs are really playing for. It's just talent evaluation, roster evaluation right now. Steph Castle has the Rookie of the Year locked. I mean, I'd be stunned if he doesn't get it. But, that's pretty much locked. Maybe just when it comes down to Mitch, maybe that's when we get to watch. How is Mitch going to navigate these last two games? This is his last two shots at putting his best foot forward.
That's a whole other Locked On episode, man. That's a whole other Locked On episode because it got the past couple weeks, that conversation got a whole lot more interesting with now who's going to be on the market.
I know. I like that. Now you got Jenkins and Malone out there. And not to mention the ones that are under the radar right now, Mike Brown and Monty Williams. And, the list probably goes on and on. But again, Spurs Suns tonight. Hey, the last road game of the season. So hopefully you guys will enjoy and the Spurs get a W. And the last late night game too. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Yeah, those late night games are killing me. He is Casey Vieira. Make sure to follow him on X at Casey_Vieira. You want to do that right now. And everybody else, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen every single day. You guys are the everydayers. Keep coming here every single day at Locked On Spurs. Subscribe at YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Kenspy Plus app. Check out the Locked On Spurs newsletter. You want to go to LockedOnDaily.com right now. Subscribe to all, including the Spurs, Locked On Spurs newsletters right now. We'll be back next week as the Spurs season will be officially over next week. We'll start off-season talk, and wow, I can't believe we're already there. We're going to start off-season talk already next week right here on Locked On Spurs. So for Casey Vieira, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.